Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, June 10th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The heat is on. Excessive temperature warnings playing out for parts of the county. And with those warnings come others regarding water use. New restrictions now in place in an effort to conserve more during our drought. KPBS reporter John Carroll with who must now tighten the tap.
For decades, it's been a cherished emblem of the Southern California lifestyle, but California's multi-year drought is making green, lush lawns more impractical than ever. That impracticality underlined now by Level 2 water restrictions in San Diego.
At this point, we're doing more of an educational outreach to provide information to residents on how to conserve the water supply that we do have.
If you don't have an irrigation system, you have to use a hose with a shutoff nozzle or a garden hose with a sprinkler that's on a timer. No watering 48 hours before or after we get rain, so keep an eye on those weather reports. Now, you can only irrigate 3 days a week max, and that must happen before 10 a.m. or after 6 p.m. That restriction does not apply to commercial growers, nurseries, golf courses, or the watering of trees. Recycled non-potable water is required on all construction sites, and no more washing your cars and trucks at home. Thanks to years of investing in water production and storage, we're better off than most other parts of the state. But Jose Isaias says conserving is just the right thing to do, and it's the best way to prevent more stringent restrictions.
It's very important that people follow these restrictions now, because if they don't, then matters could get worse.
Over the past 3 decades, water use has gone down by 40%.
But Efren Lopez with the San Diego County Water Authority says we can all do even more. And the Water Authority has incentives.
We have some of the highest rebates in California to take out your turf grass, to replace an irrigation controller.
So there are plenty of carrots, but there is also a stick. The city of San Diego is asking people to report water waste on the city's Get It Done app. You can also call 619-533-5271 or email waterwaste@sandiego.gov. Be sure to join us on Evening Edition next week when I'll bring you a story all about pulling out that lawn and what to replace it with. You may be surprised at the beautiful options available to deal with the reality that we live in an arid climate, and we're now in year 3 of an unprecedented drought. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Summertime is also travel time, and gas, airfare, hotel and food costs all climbing. Reporter Gloria Pazmino looks at the impact from a new inflation report and what, if anything, the White House can do about it.
You know, all the tips that I literally just made the night before that I wanted to put into, like, maybe bills or save, I can't.
The pain continues. The price of regular gas nationwide now averaging $4.99 a gallon, according to AAA.
I still have to go to my jobs, and so it's not really negotiable.
I'm gonna stop driving.
The high cost of gas helped drive inflation to 8.6% for the 12 months ending in May, higher than in April. That's according to the latest Consumer Price Index, the government's basic inflation measure released Friday. The White House facing a major challenge to stabilize the economy.
My administration is going to continue everything we can to lower the prices to the American people, and the Congress has to act.
The core CPI reading, which doesn't include volatile food and energy prices, posted a 6% increase over the same period, marking a jump from the previous month. All combined, the increases are among the highest consumers have experienced since 1981. For many Americans, it's getting harder to afford everyday items.
If I can make it from one month to the other month, that's good.
food prices have increased 10.1%, the first double-digit increase in 3 decades. The cost of housing also increased, along with the price of used cars. And there's no relief on the horizon. The high pace of inflation is likely to raise interest rates again when the Federal Reserve Board meets next week. Gloria Pasmino, KPBS News.
And the latest numbers show gas rose locally to yet another record, $6.35 a gallon for regular unleaded. That's up 3 cents overnight, and the 15th consecutive day it's gone up. In fact, during that period, it's jumped 33 cents. A AAA spokesperson says the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues to send shockwaves throughout the oil market, impacting crude prices. Another milestone in the pandemic. San Diego County has surpassed 800,000 total reported cases as the numbers continue their recent tick upwards. Even so, KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman says officials are still rolling back pandemic restrictions.
The summer travel rush is on, and after this weekend, international travelers coming to the U.S. will not have to get a negative COVID test. The restrictions put in place last year are to go away on Sunday. With that testing requirement expiring this weekend, airport officials tell me they're expecting to see more international travelers.
Airlines, airports, and a lot of the hospitality industries have been really pushing for this travel restriction to be lifted. And so I think it is going to be a really positive thing for the industry and something that's, again, going to spark a lot of that travel that maybe, people were hesitant to take before.
San Diego Airport spokesperson Sabrina Lopiccolo says while you soon will not need a negative test to enter the U.S., you may still need one if you're traveling to other countries.
The best thing that you could do is do that research before you get to the airport.
We spoke with some international flyers who say the time is right to do away with the testing requirement.
I think it's probably a good idea because it's indicative of the government's belief that they have the epidemic under control. Of course, I think it's going to do great things for tourism.
Others say they're looking forward to saving the time it takes to get a COVID test.
Well, it means that half hour in the beginning and less trouble. Of course, there's some logistics in it, and just, having not to think about it is nice because you might come to the airport. There might be a super long line, especially in Scandinavia. They've closed down quite a lot of the test centers.
Pre-pandemic, the airport saw about 1 million international travelers every year. It's slowly been building back up, and all but one of the international carriers has returned to San Diego. Traffic, though, hasn't fully rebounded. Airport officials estimate they're still down about 12% overall. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Funding the future of San Diego. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayers says city leaders are getting ready to choose where your tax dollars go in hearings that start next week.
San Diego City is close to adopting a proposed $4.89 billion budget for the 2023 fiscal year. San Diego City Council President Shawnee Rivera says this year's budget is bigger than previous years due to overall economic recovery.
Sales tax revenue has gone up a bunch as people are out there spending money. Our tourism has not fully recovered, but it's rebounded quite a bit, right? So our transit occupancy tax has rebounded substantially. Those two things just give us more money in our coffers to work with.
Elo Rivera says the budget aims to address root issues in the city, which differs from years past.
Big picture, infrastructure, there's huge investment there, and then housing and homelessness continues to be something that the city's investing in a very substantial way.
Elo Rivera says he understands the region's struggles with homelessness and housing affordability through firsthand experience when he was growing up.
We cannot solve our homelessness crisis without preventing people from falling into homelessness.
A primary focus for the budget is increasing funds to hire and keep more City of San Diego employees.
Another part of this budget is starting to bring San Diego employees up to competitive wages so that our firefighters don't feel like they have to leave the City of San Diego in order to go, make the money they need to allow their family to live in this region.
He says the city worker shortages go beyond the fire department.
It's a capacity issue. And so even when the council has allocated funds towards certain needs like streetlights last year, without people to do the work will not get done.
The city council is holding its final hearings on the budget on Monday, June 13th and the following week. The budget must be adopted by June 30th. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
President Joe Biden and other leaders representing the Western Hemisphere are announcing what they are calling a roadmap for countries to host migrants and refugees. The Los Angeles Declaration is a product of the Summit of the Americas, which Biden has been hosting. It includes a set of principles laying out the legal pathways for entry, aid, and emergency response, as well as border management. As a result of Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela being cut from the invitation list, Mexico and Central American countries sent diplomats in lieu of leaders. The March for Our Lives rally for gun control is returning to Washington, D.C. Tens of thousands of people are expected to meet at the Washington Monument at noon tomorrow. Hundreds of sister marches and events are being held nationwide this weekend, including in downtown San Diego and Carlsbad. Gun control advocates say there have been more than 250 mass shootings in the U.S. this year. As thousands of families across San Diego County celebrate their graduating students tonight, there is one that stands out. It's a class of just about a dozen graduates who've overcome homelessness and created true hope for their futures. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has their story.
Amid the pomp and circumstance at this graduation ceremony, 18-year-old Rosario Alvarez is the valedictorian of the Monarch School's class of 2022.
My first language is Spanish. I raised with my family. My family is Mexican, so I speak more Spanish.
Rosario has learned English along with economics and engineering in the past 4 years with her other classmates. There are 13 of them total, with one empty chair for Juliana Campos, who died 3 years ago of a common flu. She had no health insurance. A hard reality for these graduates who spent their high school years without stable housing, often living in a car or with family or friends.
I also like to thank my family. They are the ones who motivate me to continue, and they always give me the support when I need it most.
Rosario's support came from her mother, Alejandra, who is not able to cross the Mexican border legally from Tijuana. This valedictorian crossed back and forth every school day to make sure she graduated, to someday become a criminal attorney representing those who need help the most.
With my mom is a single mom, so I think a lot of people need like people who can be more like helping the community.
Her passion is prompted by the power of her native language and love for her mother.
Ella siempre la he visto luchar por mi bienestar y siempre ha querido que yo estudie para que pueda ser alguien mejor en la vida y creo que eso es muy bueno.
I propose, fellow graduate, look at who we have next to us at this very special moment, because today we are all part of this new generation.
The class of 2022 has so many other success stories to tell, as some go on to Southwestern College, City College, Grossmont College, and Barber College this fall.
Why is the butterfly the symbol of our school? It's because it's about metamorphosis, right? It's about recognizing that change is inherent to life, and how you embrace change in order to become something beautiful is what we're here to do.
The perseverance of these graduates is beautiful in any language. The gratitude is too. Rosario puts the gratitude for her mother this way.
Yo le agradezco por todo lo que ha hecho.
It now gives me a great pleasure to present Monarch School's graduating class of 2022.
Congratulations, Monarch class of 2022. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Congratulations to them indeed. Today was a day of action. Dozens of volunteers with United Way of San Diego pulled on their gardening gloves and dug deep to help out their community. This Bayside Community Garden is used to grow fresh food for low-income area families. The San Diego Food Bank is also part of this day of action that's meant to showcase the power of volunteering.
Feels great. I mean, it's a small little thing, but every little small step counts. And if more and more people come out and do these little things, it's going to create great change.
The San Diego Food Bank now serves 500,000 people each month. That's a number that's grown from 350,000 because of the pandemic. A worker shortage is forcing some summer camps to either slim down their programming or cancel it completely. And those still open for the summer season say they're feeling the impact of inflation and soaring demand. Jen Sullivan has a closer look.
School is out for summer, and some of the camps parents counted on to keep their children busy are no longer an option. From private to city-run summer camps, some programs are either being trimmed or canceled altogether this 2022 season due to a serious worker shortage.
I think it's another really tough year for summer camps.
Camp IHC in Pennsylvania is one of those camps still operating this season. But camp director Lauren Ratowski says they have had to raise wages and hire international staff to have enough counselors.
We have seen the cost of staffing go up 30 to 50%. So that's really tricky when in 2020 most of us did not open at all.
Meanwhile, in Georgia, Campfire Camp Toccoa announced the cancellation of its overnight camp due to difficulty in securing the necessary staff. And in Michigan, Traverse City canceled its summer day camp program, saying it couldn't hire enough workers to meet state regulations requiring a 10-to-1 students to counselor ratio.
We need you.
The staffing issues come as demand has come roaring back after pandemic disruptions. Some 26 million children nationwide are expected to be enrolled in one of over 15,000 summer camps in the country.
We will likely be fully enrolled for summer 2023 at some point, in July this year.
Meanwhile, inflation is also surging, forcing some camp operators to pass on additional costs to parents as they're faced with higher prices for food, transportation, staff, and insurance. For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
A major retail chain is slashing prices during a time of inflation. SDSU's Miro Kopik explains how this is tied to a big change in pandemic buying habits in the Friday Business Report.
Target is kind of caught in this inflationary cycle. So with inflation today going up to 8.6% and, the highest in 21 years, they are finding that consumer behavior has changed fairly radically in responding to this inflationary cycle. So a lot of items that they had, for example, like home goods, which really sold like hotcakes during the pandemic, consumer electronics, and now clothing, consumers aren't buying. So they've got a lot of inventory of those items. Target did make the announcement that they said that they would try to offset some of these discounts with price increases elsewhere, but given the pressure of the inflation announcement today, where food prices were up nearly 12%, it's going to be very hard to increase prices in grocery and other high demand items that Target is selling. This is, a little good sign for consumers, and they can be selective in picking up items that they otherwise wouldn't be thinking about right now because the prices should be attractive.
Our hot weather in the interior will slowly fade away as we take you into the weekend, while along the coast, really no big changes. So clouds and some sun, and cooler at the coastal areas into the weekend. Interior sections start off hot, but we'll start to see some cooling. And as the cooler air comes in, the winds will be on the increase. We still have heat advisories through Saturday evening and excessive heat warnings into Sunday evening, and then the cooler air will move in. But until then, look at all the heat across the southwest and dangerously hot conditions. We'll see clouds tonight, our low right around 65, 63 Oceanside, El Cajon 64, Mount Laguna 70 for a low, Borrego Springs a warm night at 84. On the future cast, we just see the clouds kind of tickling the coastal areas. Aside from that, just a few high clouds in the interior sections. High pressure's in control. That'll keep it hot in the interior right through Saturday. Look at that. Some spots in the deserts could see 120 plus. Wow, that's hot. Borrego Springs sizzling at 113. Campo's up to 95. And El Cajon's at 88. Here in San Diego, right around 73 degrees. Cooler air, though, is going to sweep southward from Sunday into Monday. So look at that. Dramatically cooler conditions and some wind coming, too. So here we are at the coast. We'll be in the mid-70s this weekend with clouds and sunshine, a little cooler on Monday. Interior sections, it stays pretty warm. Then it gets dramatically cooler, and we'll see some wind increasing too. In the mountains, the temperatures really drop off from the low 80s to low 70s, and we'll see some windy weather here. And in the deserts, well, we'll be sizzling to start off the weekend here, and then temperatures will drop off a little bit here as we take you into Monday. Look at that, hazy and windy. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, what we learned from the first public hearing on the January 6th investigation. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Pride started as a riot for recognition and acceptance of the LGBTQ community before it became a celebration. Tomorrow, Oceanside is hosting Pride by the Beach, one of the first events for Pride Month. The festival will have performances, food, dancing, and health and educational booths. It's being put on by the North County LGBTQ Resource Center.
Offer here at the Resource Center are going to be celebrated at Pride by the Beach because we made it, and we made it out of COVID. We can't forget how separated we were, how alone and isolated we were, and we especially can't forget those LGBTQ people who have been very impacted by COVID. So we're going to celebrate that.
Pride by the Beach will take place from noon to 6 tomorrow near Oceanside Civic Center. The event is free, family-friendly, and alcohol and tobacco-free. San Diego International Fringe Festival ends on Sunday. Teatro San Diego will have one final performance of its new works tomorrow at the Centro Cultural de la Raza. But KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando says this will not be the last you hear of this new theater company.
Opening a brand new theater company during a global pandemic might seem a daunting or even quixotic endeavor, but Julio Catano was happy to tilt at windmills to create Teatro San Diego.
We started in 2020 during the summer of when the COVID pandemic really hit, and the thing that really inspired us as a group was it was a huge group of BIPOC artists from San Diego, and the Black Lives Matter movement was really at its height, and we were investigating kind of what the opportunities were, what the landscape was like in San Diego for a performing artist of color. And we came to the point where we thought, you know, we need to just create another opportunity.
For Catano, diversity is not just about race and ethnicity, but also about gender and identity, as reflected in the New Works show at San Diego Fringe.
You're seeing two incredible leaders of the performing arts come from communities that are underrepresented and are telling stories that are so creative and so imaginative that it just adds more color to the landscape of San Diego.
Clinton Sherwood identifies as non-binary. Their Body Talk dance show explores different relationships through movement, such as two women meeting up on a crowded dance floor.
In musical theater, we get a lot of plot through words and through song, and I wanted to really challenge that and let the body be the leading voice. And so I created 6 dance pieces to challenge different theatrical rules.
Challenging rules is what Fringe is all about, says Catano.
The Fringe is a great place to it's the big old sandbox, I think, where you could just play and try new things.
Sherwood says Catano was his classmate at San Diego State University.
I could not be more grateful for him and his company hoisting me up and giving me space to create this piece.
Body Talk experiments with different styles of physical communication.
There's always stories happening with bodies. When we talk to each other, we don't just hear the words, we see each other's physical postures, we see gestures, we see energy in the body, and I'm really interested in honing that version of the story.
A different kind of energy is explored in the second half of New Works. In the musical The Dropout, Victoria Matlock Fowler looks to the cult of personality surrounding Elizabeth Holmes, the biotech entrepreneur who was convicted of fraud.
This is the testimony of Elizabeth Holmes, going on the record in San Francisco, California at 9:00 a.m., July 11th, 2017.
I wanted to tell this story because, first of all, she is an amazing
caricature of a human. I just thought she was so interesting, the way that she carries herself, the eyes, the intensity with which she talks. I just really thought, wow, that's a really interesting character, and I would love to get into her mind and why she does what she does. So it's really, to me, just the baby beginning starts of this show. And this is the world premiere, first live public audience. It's absolutely terrifying, but it's also just so humbling. And I'm so grateful to be here.
Neither Matlock Fowler nor Sherwood would be here at all if it were not for Teatro San Diego. And that's precisely why Catania founded it.
For me, most of all, my mission statement here is to uplift San Diego artists, local artists, because there's a massive exodus of artists from San Diego that train here and then find opportunities elsewhere. And so we're trying to provide a space where they can continue to work and find a place to come home when they want to come home.
There's one last performance of new works at Fringe on Saturday, but Teatro San Diego can be found all over the county pursuing its mission. It has a show in Oceanside, a dance lab in downtown San Diego, and a new residency in City Heights. And there's also a chance that Body Talk and The Dropout will return as full-length shows. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.